You've saved $2 million for retirement. You're ready to retire and you're wondering, how do you start living off your investments? Today I'm going to walk you through how you can get the most from your $2 million retirement savings by using the two big levers of your Social Security decision and your tax planning to get more income and pay less taxes in retirement. You might not have exactly $2 million and you might not be exactly 62 years old. What's most important is the process to take when you retire, and deciding if you want someone to guide you through this part of your life, where you're facing these big decisions that could make you or cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. The 3 steps you need to take in order to help you get the most out of your retirement are: number 1, your longevity. Making a great estimate of your life expectancy is a big key input, probably the number 1 input in your retirement decision. It helps you decide when you might retire and how to take Social Security. The number 2 step to take is making that great Social Security decision, which you get to make up front, that's going to affect the rest of your life. And then number 3 is your tax planning decision, how you set up your taxes and where you take your money from, in which accounts, and in which order from the accounts. That's going to affect your retirement greatly. Now, the biggest input into your retirement, the biggest risk to your retirement, is how long might you live. Getting an accurate estimate of your life expectancy is critical for a lot of decisions, like when might you retire and how do you take your Social Security. It also really helps too on if you're deciding to do a Roth conversion up front, how long does that tax-free growth get to grow for you? So your life expectancy decision, your life expectancy estimate is paramount. The best place I found to get a great life expectancy estimate is through a place called longevityillustrator.org. When you go to Longevity Illustrator, you get to plug in things like your date of birth and your gender. Are you a smoker? What's your health status? And it's going to give you an accurate estimate of how your life expectancy might be. So we've got Dave and Sue plugged in here, and they're 62 years old right now, and they might have some estimates for their life expectancy. You probably have some ideas of what your life expectancy might look like. But let's take a look at what the statistics say life expectancy looks at. And a couple of things with life expectancy is most people understand life expectancy is right here. It's the average length of time you might live. But an average is an average. You might die beforehand. You might die afterwards. Your life expectancy is not exactly the date of death. It's not a certainty on there. So we've got to look at both the life expectancy and the chances are that you might go before or after. And when there's 2 of you, how does this interact together? So a lot of times when you're looking at the life expectancy, you're looking at yourself, you're looking at your spouse. And let's see how it's not just your individual self, your individual spouse, but how does this work together as a couple? Dave here, now in the world of actuaries, they like to look at the length of time versus an age. So remember, Dave's 62. 24 years from now means his life expectancy is 86 years old. Sue, her life expectancy is 88 years old. Interesting enough, they have a 25% chance. They have a 1 in 4 shot of making it both roughly 5 or 6 years after that. So you have a decent chance of living after your life expectancy. What's interesting too about that average is if there's 2 of you, on average, 1 of you will die before the average, 1 of you will die after the average. So if you're only planning on exactly your averages, your own length of time, your own ages, you're ignoring the very real, the most likely probability that 1 of you will live longer than that, which is why it's so important to look at this column that says either. How long might either 1 of you be around? So while it's 86 for Dave, 88 for Sue as an average, on average, 1 of them in the couple will be around 30 years from now, which is why for Dave, we're plugging in 86. And for Sue, since she's the one with the higher life expectancy, we're going to give her that extra balance there, and we're going to plan on 92 for her, which is just the averages of what their life expectancy looks like. So let's take a look at Dave and Sue, who have $2 million. We've got their ages in there. We've got their life expectancy in there. We've got their Social Security details in there, where Dave is expecting about $3,000 from Social Security at his full retirement age of 67, and Sue is expecting about $1,500 at her retirement age of 67. Now, they've got $2 million saved up, but the way that their money is invested is important too. their IRA has about $1.5 million in there. The taxable amount has roughly $300,000 in there. Now that's just like your regular brokerage, kind of stocks and bonds that go up and down and don't have any extra special tax situation. And then the Roth IRA has $200,000 in there. That's pretty typical from what I see talking to a lot of my clients. You might be wondering too, how much money can my $2 million generate in income every year? And that's an important piece of it that has to do not just with your investments, has to do with your taxes, your Social Security, your pension. For Dave and Sue, I saw that they could have $9,000 a month of income, which is after taxes. A lot of times when you're planning things out, you might see, oh, I can get 4%, 5% of a amount of income coming out of my investments. What really matters is not how much comes out of your investments, but how much you get to keep. So when you're looking at things and how much you can make in retirement, I'd encourage you to look at that after-tax dollar amount. How much do you get to keep? How much shows up in your checking account? For Dave and Sue, it's $9,000 per month that we're planning on for them. Now, Dave and Sue have already taken a look at their longevity, and they've plugged in their average life expectancy for themselves and as a couple. They've already looked at their Social Security benefit amount that's available, but now you have to see, how do I get the most out of Social Security? And when you plug into a Social Security calculator, it's going to take the age you are now, the exact age that you're planning to die, your life expectancy, and they're accounting for that happening that exact minute. And it's going to try to give you the most amount of Social Security over that exact time frame. Now, chances are it's not going to work exactly that way, which is why you've got to take these Social Security calculators a little bit with a grain of salt. Quite often, you'll see when there's two higher earners that it's going to encourage you both to wait till 70. Maybe one of you is a higher earner and one of you is a lower earner. Quite often it says 70 for the higher earner, 67 for the lower earner. You're probably thinking, I don't want to wait to 70. We both don't want to wait to 70. So we want to see what's the biggest lever in your Social Security decision. How do I get the most benefit out of waiting without maybe not having to wait all the way to 70? And of course, it is a big deal when you take your Social Security. If you take your Social Security early and over their lifetime for Dave and Sue, taking it both at 62 might get them $1.5 million over their lifetime. Add up your own Social Security. You'll see it's a $1 million decision, and getting the most out of that $1 million decision is a big help towards your retirement. Waiting all the way to 70 might give them $2 million. So of course, we're talking here $500,000 up and down on their Social Security decision. How do you get the most out of that? Most people love getting $500,000 more. Most people don't want to wait till 70. So how can we get you the most in your Social Security by waiting the right amount and choosing the right Social Security benefit to actually be the one you wait on? I'd encourage you when you're looking at your Social Security, not just look at the three ones that are presented, which is basically both of you go early, both of you take it full retirement age, both of you wait until 70. I'd take a look at what if you both maybe wait a few years, and also maybe what if just one of you waits a few years. So I took a look here and said, let's have you both wait until 65, and we're going to compare that to see how does both you waiting 3 years, which is kind of like an average, it's like you took 6 years of waiting, right? If there's two of you and you wait 3 years, it's like there's 6 years of waiting. How does that really help you out? So let's compare both of you taking at 62 and both of you waiting till 65. And for Dave and Sue, of course, if you take it early, you get extra money early. You might get $100,000 over your first 3 years by taking it early as opposed to waiting. Of course, once you wait and you turn it on, you start getting more. Waiting 3 years will give you likely around 25% more. So that starts kind of eating into this advantage that taking it early gave you here, which is why so many people look at this idea of the break even, right? For them, it takes to about age 76 before they break even, where waiting gave them the more money to make up for the idea of taking it early, right? Now, over their lifetime, that's what we're interested in, is helping you get the most amount of income over your lifetime. Over your lifetime, waiting those 3 years, both of you waiting 3 years might give you $150,000 extra over your lifetime. Now, is it worth it then for $150,000 extra of Social Security over your lifetime to wait those 3 years? Let's take a look at another idea. This other idea is not just what if you both wait the 3 years, but what if one of you keeps taking it early at 62, and the other one waits 6 total years. Now, here's 2 big places where it's different. Instead of both of you waiting 3 more years, one of you takes it early, one of you waits perhaps 6 years. If one of you takes it early, you're coming out ahead a little bit because one of you is getting an income. Then, of course, you both hit 65, you're waiting the 3 years, and you would have gotten more if you both waited 3 years. But 3 more years after that, the other person kicks in, and now they're getting their money, and you're back to winning again. If you're calling winners and losers, the idea of one taking it early and the other one waiting 6 years and taking it, that makes you a winner for 3 years. You fall behind for the next 3 years, and then you're a winner for the rest of your life. Seems like a good deal, especially where it comes down to here of the idea of Social Security planning is not just how do you get the most right away, it's how do you help yourself later on in life. And later on in life, if there's 2 of you, there'll be 1 of you. And the idea of getting the most in that survivor benefit is absolutely critical. So the person that waited till 65 instead of 62, they might get $4,200 for their survivor spouse. That's a good amount. But if they had waited 3 more years, now we're looking at $5,300, $1,000 extra to their surviving spouse, where that's an amount, $1,000 coming in for that spouse, most likely the female, that is really helping them out. I have yet to meet a widow that does not want $1,000 extra in retirement. And you look at that where we said it's basically the same thing, right? Early and later versus the same time averages out to kind of the same thing, but it doesn't. Where you come out ahead because of this extra amount going to the surviving spouse, where this decision here now gives you about $126,000 extra compared to both of you waiting the 3 years. Now this is splitting it up 62 and 68 versus both taking it at 65. Let me compare that 68 and 62 to taking it early, and that's giving you a $280,000 benefit. That's more than half the benefit. Instead of both you waiting to age 70, right? That's a combined 16 years of waiting. Just one of you waits 6 years to 68, and that gives you more than half the benefit. So take a look, not just at, again, both at 62, both at full retirement age, both at 70. Look at splitting things apart and understanding how do I get the most benefit overall. And those last kind of few years of waiting might give you a benefit. The computer is going to tell you to do it because you get $1 out of it, but it might not be worth it to you. So take a look at a lot of different scenarios with your Social Security. That's how you really make the best Social Security choice. Now for Dave and Sue, looking at it, we thought that waiting to 68 for Dave, taking it at 62 was the right choice for Dave and Sue. And of course, now we've settled that. We've looked at their longevity first, helped use that longevity to help make our Social Security decision. Now let's look at that ongoing tax planning. Just like when you're making your Social Security choice for retirement, it's not about how do you get the most money next month, it's how do you get the most money from Social Security over your lifetime. It's similar to tax planning. It's not how do you get the lowest amount of taxes this year, it's how do you get the lowest amount of taxes over your entire lifetime. And in order to do that, you need to project out your entire lifetime's worth of taxes. This is what we do here, where we're projecting out what your taxes are likely to look like when you're filing for Social Security and required minimum distributions are turning on. We're accounting for the tax laws changing in 2026. We're accounting for your required minimum distributions turning on at age 73 or 75 as things are coming up there. And we're accounting for what happens to your tax situation when the first person passes on, where now you're filing as a single individual instead of a married filing joint individual. Now, that's a lot of years, and there's a lot of different ways you could go about it. You want to look at what if I take money from my brokerage account first, or my traditional account first, or my Roth account first. What if I take money from my traditional account and move it over to the Roth? And then do I do that with a big dollar amount? Do I do it for a long amount of time? All these different scenarios are going to help you decide what's the best way to take your taxes and plan out your taxes over time. And it's not just about how do I put money into my accounts, about when do I take money from my accounts? Which accounts do I take money from? When do I take money from one account and move it to a different account? Now, thankfully, we've got computers that help us run thousands and thousands of different scenarios. And it's going to really show us how do we help Dave and Sue for them get the most out of their lifetime by making these decisions on, I'm going to take money from here first. I'm going to do a Roth conversion for a little bit of time. I'm going to not do the Roth conversion. I'm going to account for my tax situation, my Medicare situation on, do I want to avoid paying extra in the Medicare costs? So we ran those thousands of scenarios. And for Dave and Sue, we're looking here not just at the thousands of scenarios, but roughly the top 100 to get an idea of which direction should they be looking at. And when we take a look, I'm seeing for them that doing a Roth conversion seems to be fitting in with all the top scenarios. Now, when I look at it though, should they do a Roth conversion to the top of the 22% tax bracket? Should they try to get an average tax rate over their lifetime of only 14% or only 16%? Should they do a Roth conversion to the 12% tax bracket? These are little details that are going to make a difference, although when I look at it here, there's not terribly too much of a difference, right? The difference between the number 10 scenario over their lifetime, between the income they pulled in, the investments they pulled out, and what's left over their lifetime, versus the absolute top scenario, it's roughly 30 grand over their lifetime. That's about 0.5%, less than 1% decision on, okay, did I get that exact detail correct? What matters more is the direction. So let's look at these directions to help them make the best choice, help you make the best choices. So now we have a few different directions they ought to look at with their Roth conversion, their tax planning strategies, and what they ought to do with their Social Security decisions. Let's put it all together and see really how does this help them out when you put the Social Security and the tax planning decisions together. Now I've got in this chart where we are not doing any tax planning. We're not doing Roth conversions or making choices on, do I take money from this account or that account. We're not doing any Social Security planning. We're just going to take it early, which happens quite often. And in this case, you've got that $2 million. They're taking out the $9,000 a month after taxes. They still end up with $1.3 to $1.4 million. Dave and Sue are doing all right. But what happens if we add some extra levers to pull? What if we wait 3 years on Social Security? Well, waiting the 3 years on Social Security only gives them about 40 grand extra. They might not think it's actually worthwhile. I can somewhat agree with them on that. But waiting that extra 3 years beyond that, where now you're really boosting up that survivor benefit, that's really going to help out the widow later on. Now we're talking about 150 grand of extra value, 150 grand of extra money at their end of their lifetime. That's over a 10% boost, where they might be able to take a look at it and say, because we're getting extra Social Security over our lifetime, we're expecting 150,000 more at the end of our life, they could live on extra income and spread it out over their lifetime, right? Their Social Security decisions could make a $150,000 or so difference. Now let's add in the tax planning decisions. When we took a look at it and said for Dave and Sue, the Roth conversion to the top of the 12% tax bracket made a lot of sense until it got to 2026, when right now the tax laws are expected to change. And because they Roth converted early, now they can really target a tax bracket by taking money from their regular brokerage accounts, their traditional accounts, and their Roth accounts, kind of all three at once to hit the right tax bracket for them for the rest of their lifetime. So no tax planning brought them $1.35 million. Waiting till 68, looks like that adds another $150,000 to the mix. And here we are, by doing that tax planning, adds almost 300 grand of value over their lifetime because of how they end up paying their taxes over time. How does that happen? Well, a bit of it's from the Social Security, because Social Security is taxed a little differently. A bit of it's from the Roth conversions, where combined, instead of paying almost $1 million, $850,000 over their lifetime in taxes, they're cutting that tax bill down to $610,000. So that's a $235,000 lower tax situation for them. If you pay 200 grand less in taxes, you might have 200 grand more to spend over your lifetime or to end up with extra money overall. Now here's a couple of things we looked at for Dave and Sue as well too, because a lot of people are looking for what's the exact best way to do it. And the exact best way of doing it, you don't know until truly the end of time. You want to be going in the right direction. And certainly going the right direction by one of them waiting and boosting up that Social Security was a big help. Certainly going the right direction of doing the Roth conversions was a big help. But should they be Roth converting to the top of the 12% bracket, which would give them less conversions to do? Or the top of the 22% bracket, which means more taxes up front, but gives them more conversions, more tax-free income later on? How does that work out for them? Well, over a 30-year time frame, the difference between the two was roughly $8,000 on their $2 million starting portfolio. For Dave and Sue, whether they did a 12% tax Roth conversion or all the way into 22%, really didn't matter terribly too much, which means they shouldn't be having big regrets over, did we make a mistake on going to the 12% or the 22%? They should really focus on, are we doing the Roth conversions at all, right? Or this gives them a nice peace of mind if there's some flexibility there. If the market goes up or market goes down, they might feel comfortable switching from the 12% to the 22% target for the Roth. Or maybe a different politician gets elected president, and they might look at a different way to take their taxes and their Roth conversion. Or maybe the market drops and they feel comfortable with a lower market situation doing more of a Roth conversion. Planning things out ahead of time really gives you a lot of flexibility. So it gives you an idea of what should you be doing when things change, because things will change. Now, of course, here too, I wanted to see for them, if they waited all the way to 70, how much extra value do they get from their Social Security decision? And in this case, when you look at those decisions of both of them to 70, instead of just one of them to 68, that did add value, right? The computer was not wrong. It added value. It added about 140 grand of extra money in their ending balance. How much money they had at the extra amount of time. And for them looking at it, they thought, do we need an extra 140 grand when we're done with our lifetime? Or would we rather have the Social Security up front? So you look at these decisions of waiting a few years, and it brought them $400,000, $440,000 of extra money. That seemed worth it for them. They did the tax planning. They waited on their Social Security. But they thought trying to absolutely maximize it, get it exactly to what the computer thought of both of them waiting to 70, that wasn't worth it for them. You've worked hard and you deserve to get the most out of your retirement. After watching Dave and Sue, you might be thinking there are some different pieces of retirement that you need to add to your plan. Check out my next video where I ask the question, is your retirement plan flawed? I'll see you there. Hi, I'm Jeremy Keil, owner of Keil Financial Partners. And if you're interested in seeing how we help our clients get more income, pay less in taxes, and avoid big retirement mistakes, make sure to go to keilfp.com. That's KEILFP.com.